This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Rising Tide Startups, and my guest today is Tracy Sherriff. Tracy, thanks for joining us today on Rising Tide Startups.
Oh, for sure. Thanks for having me.
So tell our audience a little bit about Tracy Sherriff. Who is Tracy Sherriff?
Well, that's a tough question,
What
you
a great
know.
name too, really. I mean, I got to tell
Oh,
you, I'm
thanks.
jealous. I'm going to change my name. My podcast name is going to be something like Deputy or something. So that's what we're going to go with.
Oh, that's funny. Um, I think that's a tough question only because I'm a person who wears many different
I'm
hats.
sure that's
But I'll
true.
try to give you the short version. I am an educator by trade.
Uh-huh.
I live in Ontario in Hamilton, and really education and learning and teaching, all of those things have been a focus for me throughout ever since I started working, basically. So from a teenager onwards and upwards. So I currently do work in developmental services and nonprofit, so I am a side hustler.
Mm-hmm.
And I also teach at a local college in the early childhood education program at two different, at the diploma and the bachelor arts level.
Okay.
And I'm also currently with building my business with Teach Your Tribe Online. And on top of that, I'm a mom and a volunteer, and I got three boys, and they're growing up. They're 17 right now, 17, 21, and 24. So they're flying high, I guess, trying to find their way, and also completing my own Master's of Arts degree right now. So I'm kind of all over the place, as you can probably tell from my answer here, but that's me in a nutshell.
So, like so many of our guests, I mean, I'm just going to have to label you already as a chronic underachiever. I mean, obviously, because you don't have enough going on in your life. You probably have a lot of downtime, binge a lot of shows on Netflix, that type of thing. So how in the world do you going off script here a little bit? I mean, I ran out of time. My pen ran out of ink writing the things that you're doing here. So, how in the world do you find time in your 24-hour, 7-day week, just like the rest of us? I mean, I find myself very busy, but my list is about a third of that. So,
Well,
how do you
I
balance all that?
I get that asked a lot, and I won't say that there isn't days where sometimes I'm kind of feeling like I'm chasing just trying to figure that out myself. But
Sure.
for the most part, I think it's just I'm pretty skilled at prioritizing. So I recently described it to someone like I have lots of different lanes
Hmm.
that I work in and I play in, and I want to keep all my lanes moving. So my daily task when I wake up is really just to see which lane needs my most attention. And so while there are certain things that I can't change, so I do work full time in a day job. So I work a 9 to 5. That's pretty set. The other stuff kind of folds all around that. So I might start my day in the morning looking at which lane needs most of
Right.
my attention and
Right.
where can I start. And I like to leave in the morning before I go to my day job doing a task related to one of those other things,
That's
whether it
good
is
use of time.
marking an assignment for a student or answering an email or reading an article for my own course that I'm taking as part of my master's, or whatever it is, going on social media, making a few tweets and different things. I try to make sure that I'm always keeping my lanes moving. And that's it doesn't mean to say that there aren't times when I feel a little bit
Right.
overwhelmed,
I'm sure that's
but
true.
I'm fortunate that some of the stuff I do, I have choices, right? So
Hmm.
when I'm teaching, it's semester to semester, I'm contract. So I could choose, like this semester, I chose to take two courses on as a professor. Most of the time, I just take one. So this time I thought, I'll go big, I'll go with two.
Go
And
big or
I'm
go home.
actually, yeah, I'm trying a different level of teaching this year as well. So that'll be a new challenge for me. But I can step out of teaching for a semester if
Hmm.
I'm starting to really feel like this is just too much. I really like to keep as many opportunities open, so I really just try to at least keep my toe in the water in as many things as possible. But there are times when I have to put the brakes on for sure. for sure.
I mean, it sounds like the perfect balance of kind of being opportunistic, but being, but prioritizing well and managing time well. So, and it also seemed like as you were describing these, there is some overlap or there's some connectivity between these activities. They're not just completely random. I've got a flower shop and I'm a police officer and I'm, a blogger and just so that there does seem to be some, connectedness in kind of your chaotic world there. So I think that has to help a little bit.
It absolutely does, and I think there are definitely those common threads. And so, what learning I might have to do for one often is learning for all,
Right. Yeah, that's
right?
good.
So, even in my job in developmental services, I'm a manager, so I do a lot of teaching, and I also have a lot of learning that I do as well there, and connecting with people, and there's all kinds of skills that are used in all those different environments.
Right.
So it helps for
Yeah.
sure.
Okay, so I'm going to shift a little bit here. It looks like we're doing a Skype call, but actually you and I are stepping onto an elevator. So we're going to go up to about the 10th floor. I'm about to hit the button, hit number 10. The doors are closing. Give me your elevator pitch. What is Teach Your Tribe Online?
Teach Your Tribe Online is a consulting business that I started just a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's really at its early stages, and my focus is online coaches and consultants who have established practices, so
Mm-hmm.
are already feeling like they have steady revenue coming in, that want to up level or scale their business revenue with online courses,
Right.
or group programs specifically. I really want to help them create outcomes-based, results-oriented courses, because I do feel, as somebody who works as an educator, that the task of putting a course together is often underestimated by someone who's never done it before.
Right.
And it's really easy to stick up a video and a worksheet and give a prompt question, but there's so much intention that has to go behind curriculum mapping when you want to really give your learner the best experience that's focused on them, that gets them the results that they're looking for. So I want to take away some of the stress of that task, because it looks easy from the when you're standing back and you see someone else do that. When the final product is up, it often looks like it just kind of flows and it's all together, but there's just so much intention to it that people often underestimate. So I really want online coaches and consultants to give their students the best experience, while at the same time giving them the opportunity to up-level their business, increase their revenue, but also give them more time and freedom and flexibility as part of that, because there's goals on both sides.
I just heard the elevator ding. So we're at the 10th floor. We're getting out, and I'm like actually getting a business card from you because you kind of sold me on the way up. So tell me, how long have you been doing Teach Your Tribe Online?
I guess I probably launched it last summer, but I wouldn't even I say launching very loosely. I was really, again, a toe in the water, trying to figure out, who I was really wanting to serve, what my messaging was. And it wasn't until recently that I actually really nailed that down and decided that I really wanted to focus on people with established businesses. I mean, I'm happy to support others as well, but I learned that you really need to have at least some type of an audience. You need to have some type of a message and a brand to really build off of as a foundation in order for that to be really successful.
And a revenue stream.
Yes. Otherwise, you're putting the cart before the horse. And so many people do that, and then they get discouraged in the process. So, I do offer a variety of different ways that I can help people. But if I'm going to help people sort of really develop a results-oriented course, I focus primarily on those established coaches and consultants.
So you've been doing this for just a little over a year. So tell me, what would you say would be your top one or two, obstacles that you face that you how do I get over that hump? I mean, what are what are the things that I keep kind of running into that maybe our listeners could even speak into?
Mm. I think with what I'm trying to sell as a service,
Hmm.
it really has a lot to do with getting others to understand the need and the value of
Mm.
having someone with a background in instructional design to have their eyes on your product. Because, like I said, people do feel, well, I perceive that through my market research that people often feel it's easier than it is, and
Yeah.
that they might even create something that's good, but I could help them make it better
Hmm.
or the best that it could be, with that instructional design background. So often when I say, how can I help you? It's, well, what course platform can I choose? Where should I host this
Right.
course? Well, what is your course?
Yeah.
And who are you serving? And how is it best taught? And what strategies do we need to use to get that information across? That might inform your decision on the course platform, but a lot of people want to move straight to the
Right.
technology first,
Right.
because they're visualizing the end result. But there's so much planning that really needs to go into a good quality
Mm.
course or group program. And that's quite often the hardest work. But you don't always feel like you're creating anything yet, because
Right.
you're just mapping it out, you're developing it. And that's where, people get kind of mixed up in the order. So convincing someone, first of all, that I have something of value,
Yeah.
to offer them outside of, I can certainly give advice around course platforms and technology, but beyond that. And I think the other thing is, just my own visibility. So marketing myself, and I'm still list building. I'm still, only recently just sort of nailed down my messaging
Hmm.
and have revamped my website and things like that, which a lot of people will say spending the wrong amount of time on the wrong thing. Just as I talked about course creators, putting time into your website, they often say is time not well spent in the beginning, because you're trying to, you really need to get yourself out there,
Right.
socializing and connecting with
Yeah.
people. But I've done a bit of both. But now I really feel like I have this message that I can build off of, and that's probably a high point for me right
Hmm.
now. And I'll just carry forward with that. But so being comfortable with visibility is something that, I'm working on.
We all do.
Yeah, I know it's an
Everybody in our
ongoing.
space
Yeah.
does that for sure. But let me go back just a second on the first pain point, because as you were talking, I mean, two things really came to mind. I mean, this idea that if I was creating a course, I mean, it would almost be like, okay, I know what my material is, and all I'm trying to do is get my material into a course format. But like any educator, like any good educator, I mean, we mere mortals, we don't even know what scope and sequence is. But educators understand that. They understand what's the end goal you're trying to accomplish. It's not just conveying information, it is bringing people to a point where they can grasp it and they can apply it.
Right.
And
And I
that's
think
just a great
apply is
point.
a good word to use. Apply for sure.
But just the fact that as you were talking, I was thinking, so just getting the information into a format is not enough. You really have to understand, and that goes back to almost the very beginning. What is the goal? What's the outcome you're trying to achieve here? And build the course accordingly, and then we can worry about the delivery mechanism later. It's almost that's almost secondary, in some
Exactly.
ways.
But
So
you'd be surprised how many times when I talk with people who say, I've got my course all mapped out. I'm just trying to promote it. And then I say, well, tell me about your course, and, well, what's your ultimate goal? And it's dead air, because they're really
I want
not
people to
clear
buy it.
on what their ultimate
That's
goal
right.
is, other than to make some money,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I don't want to imply that, it's all about the money. I think people really are well intended,
Hmm.
and there are lots of great products and course creators and builders out there. But there really is a lot of need for more up leveling in, especially with the pricing that people are attempting to sell their
Right.
courses for,
Yeah.
right? You want them to be repeat students, and you want it to give them the richest experience possible. So the focus always needs to be on the student. So yeah, exactly. The course goal, knowing your audience is
Yep.
critical. Even how their preferred learning style, and the teaching methodologies around how best is it to give this content. So you might be a real text-based learner, but your audience may need quite a bit more than that. So you may need to repurpose some of your content or choose the most effective way to deliver it. And then there's also the differences between face-to-face teaching and online teaching.
Right.
And there's incredible challenges with online teaching that I think people underestimate. So there is a lot to it for sure.
Well, and I think the fact that, I mean, as we talked earlier about the connectedness, I mean, the fact that you can deliver on this because not only do you understand it and you can teach it, you had to do this in your other job. I mean, this was something you've done for a number of years, already. So it's really just putting into practice. You're not just a teacher, you're also a practitioner as well. So
yes, for sure.
Let's drill down just a little bit deeper here. Just really let me get inside your head a little bit. Tell me who online would you say is the one person that really has inspired you this last year, or maybe even before, as you were thinking about or contemplating getting into this space? I mean, who would you say is the one person that we might know, that we don't have to know them, but who's your inspiration?
That's a really hard question because I tend to draw different bits and pieces from different people, but I really have watched one person in particular. You probably aren't familiar with her, or I shouldn't make that assumption, but it's Neve Arthur. She's from Lighted Up Video Marketing.
Okay.
And I've been following Neve in the online space for probably 3 years now. And one thing about her that I have noticed is that her messaging stays the same. The way she delivers her content, it's very strategic, and she just builds on it. So she's not constantly reinventing herself. She's just narrowing down her message and then building her content. So she has a membership program, Lighted Up Video Marketing, which I'm a member of. Mm-hmm. And I mean, she teaches even a little bit of course creation, but primarily it's using video in your business. And so that, for me, I guess I'm attracted to it because it covers, the visibility piece, because video is so hot right now. Right. It also is how to make better videos for your course. I also find the content that she offers helps you even if you're a public speaker, because when you're on video, you're trying to also connect with your audience and, master the craft of public speaking. But I think thinking about this, she's the one that comes to mind, although there's so many others. But it's the fact that I believe when I started following her, it wasn't like she was brand new, but I can watch the growth and see the growth, and it works for her. So it's just really inspirational that she kind of sticks to the path, one foot in front of the other, listens to her audience, and has evolved into this really great membership program, which she's constantly adding new material to. And so as an online course creator, not necessarily focusing on membership programs, I find her business plan very, very fascinating.
Right. So tell me, just kind of following on to that, as we're kind of getting around inside your head here. So Neve is an inspiration, but is there like a life quote that you try to read every day, or you have taped up on your computer or whatever? Is there something that is kind of a driving inspiration, a kind of a one-line thing that I read so often, and that really does lead you?
I would say it links back to some of the stuff that I previously chatted with you about, just opportunities and things. So the old, it's not a new quote, but the Michael Jordan quote: "Some people want it to happen, some people wish it'll happen, and some people will make it happen." And for me, that's sort of how I live my life. So even these opportunities that I have, I've sought a lot of those opportunities out. I do look for open doors because I'm really perceptive at, oh, that could be a neat opportunity. And I like to move ahead a little bit. I am an achiever, but I also know that I've had great luck with just sort of telling people what it is I'd like to do at some point in
Yeah.
time. And then the opportunities may not come right away, but they'll come later on. So the make it happen, I'm a doer. And I think in business, the challenge for me is the consistency part of that doing, because to build a business and to build that visibility, you do need to be, it's not easy, right?
Right.
So that consistency piece, that daily commitment to it. But definitely that's the quote that inspires me on a regular basis. And that's how I try to encourage my boys as well, is to, you can't sit around and wait for things to happen. You have to make it happen.
I mean, come on. I mean, mom comes to a boy with a Michael Jordan quote. I mean, come on. That's awesome. I mean, what you talk about getting into your audience, that is certainly speaking your audience's language. Now, maybe you have to transition to LeBron James or maybe Steph Curry or something like that just to be a little more timely. But that
Yeah.
is great. I love that. So, if you could go back a year ago, 18 months ago, or whatever, what is the one thing that you would want to tell your kind of pre-side hustle self? What one piece of advice?
Pre-side hustle self, one piece of advice. Well, I think only because recently I actually really feel like I've got my new messaging and my framework that I can now build my content around, would be to really, and it's just like with course creation, do planning first. Take some time to really think about who you're speaking to or want to speak to, what you want to say, and how you want to say it. And because I just felt like I was kind of just throwing things out there without any real strategy. And now that I've worked through some processes to kind of really get to identifying my audience clearly and my message, I now feel like I can start working towards, that content creation piece of
Right,
it.
right.
Before I was thinking I needed the content, which I did need, but I didn't really know what my message was. So I was just sort of, well, it wasn't horribly done. It just wasn't as effective. So that would be my advice. Take the time to plan, map it out, put a little strategy and thought behind it, which is exactly what course creation is. But again, we tend to just want to get it out there, and sometimes we rush the process a little bit. So I would think that I probably wasted a little bit of time, but that's learning, right? And
Absolutely.
I like learning. So, and you don't know until you get into it. And it doesn't mean that my message won't change over time. I'm sure there's still going to be some evolution to, what I create, and I would welcome that. I mean, as a teacher, new iterations are once a course is out there, it should never be done, because it can always be better. It can always add extra elements. It has to be maintained current, to be relevant and meaningful. It needs to be current. So I imagine it will evolve over time, but I'm excited about the messaging piece being, it's increased my confidence.
Right. It's kind of like, you found your audience, you also found your voice, type thing. And that I like the way that you kind of framed that. So is there, I'm gonna chase one of those proverbial rabbits here. So as you have seen over the last year, and you probably don't have a long runway of metrics to look back on, but what would you say would be your success rate of those that you pitch your service to those who take it, or who follow up and actually buy it? Is there kind of a ballpark percentage that you have in mind, or is there is it such a? I've talked to 10 people and one person took it, but that's exactly what I wanted to do because that's the time that I had or whatever. So I don't want to lead you anyway. Let you answer that however you feel comfortable answering it or would like to answer it.
Well, I think for me, I'm, very authentic person, and because I am just starting, I've done a lot of free stuff for people. Revenue is something that I'm just currently feeling more confident in actually pitching somebody a sale, right? So don't want to mislead anybody to think that I'm the $6 million woman or anything like that, because I'm certainly not. I definitely feel that that's still a hard thing, like that sales and marketing piece. So I think if I was going to focus any more time on learning, that will be one of my next. I've certainly done some overview on sales and how to make that pitch and how to get that sale, but I'm not a salesman. I've done MLM companies before. I'm just not a good pitcher. But I would say people typically, I would probably 2 out of the 10 people that I talk to will really start to see the value in what I offer once I chat with them. But I really need to build that connection and relationship. I really need to ask them questions about what it is that they're working on, and sometimes I have to ask them tough questions for them to really realize that I really don't. I'm still in the planning phase. I thought I was done the planning phase, but actually, if I can't answer these questions, then I still have work to be done. So that's my quick and easy answer. I'm still working on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great response, and I think as you even understand your own messaging better and how to deliver that message to somebody, kind of in a sales pitch standpoint, I mean, I certainly think that percentage is going to exponentially rise, because you'll be even narrowing down the people that you're pitching to as really almost like pre-qualified leads type thing. I mean, they almost need your service before you ever begin the conversation.
Yeah, and I think because I have only just recently narrowed my audience down to more established coaches, a lot of the people that I was originally talking to were really early entry people that were really, as much as they wanted a course, they just weren't ready for it.
Yeah,
and helping them recognize that doesn't get me the sale, but I don't believe in selling somebody something that they're not going to get anything out of. So I'm committed to them being successful as much as I am about making the sale. And if they're just not ready, the best thing for me to do is give them that advice and continue to nurture that relationships moving forward. And when they are ready, maybe they'll come back and ask me for that help that they're probably going to need. So
just put a note in your Outlook calendar, circle back with them in 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
And they'll remember. They'll remember the value that you provided to them, even in their pre-revenue states. So
I got lots of people on my list that I plan on going back to at some point in time when I know I'm ready for what it is that they offer.
Right.
Investing in the wrong thing at the wrong time is something that I've kind of made a few mistakes with. Now, I wouldn't say invested in anything horribly wrong, but I can see that in my desire to kind of get clarity, I was like a squirrel kind of jumping all over the place, which I don't think is an uncommon common thing for people that are just starting out, because there's so much new learning when you're trying to create a business, especially in the online space. Well, any business really. And so I wouldn't say I regret any of the time or money that I've put in, but I definitely wish I had followed the advice of some of the earlier on people that I was following that were really successful in, get your message clear. And I thought it was clear, but it wasn't clear. And that's why I've struggled along the way. And I've been sort of starting and stopping because of that piece. So, because I can kind of sit with my messaging now and the framework I've created in a way that I'm not changing my mind in every couple days.
Right.
I know I've landed.
Yeah,
right.
That's good.
I don't have the same level of doubt or concern that I had about how it will sound right now. I just know this is my message, and the right person's going to hear it at the right time, and that's who my ideal person is, right? So
that is great advice, and listeners, I really want you to camp on that. I mean, but the ones that were giving Tracy that advice about getting clarity, they probably had to go through the same process. And it's easy after the fact to say, well, you just need to get clear on your message. Well, they probably took a number of months or even years to get clear on their message. So understand that it's a process and it's going to take us all, you know, I started this in January and I really don't think I had clarity on even the podcast itself until August. So until this month. So I fully understand what you're saying and just the value we try to provide. But is there anything that as we wrap up today, is there anything that I haven't touched on that you want to share with our audience, or just a word of wisdom, or how they can get in contact with you, guys?
Well, I think if it was a word of wisdom, I would say, just be patient and be resilient. And what I'm learning is you have to take a bit of risk, and it's okay if you fail at something that doesn't work, because if you get really excited about the data that you're going to collect by trying something, and trying it for a period of time, trying it for 5 minutes isn't going to be useful. But committing to a bit of a strategy for a short period of time and then figuring out what works for you can be fun if you look at it through the lens of gathering information.
Right.
And so then you'll eventually be able to know what is your pathway. So if it's podcasting, or if it's a video series or webinars or whatever, maybe it's a combination of all of those things. You can't be everything to everyone, and you need to choose the teaching, back to the teaching piece again, because that's where my mind always goes. When you're teaching your tribe online, it doesn't matter if it's a course or a blog or a podcast, whatever. You have to do it in a way that lights you up. Otherwise, it's not going to give you the success that you want. So try not to copy other people's. Just be yourself and give yourself the time to learn and to grow.
Now, listeners, if you have listened to this entire thing, I think I uncorked the bottle right there at the very end, and she just dropped value bomb after value bomb after value bomb. So I want you to hit rewind, go back about 2 minutes, and listen to that again and take good notes. Tracy, I'm grateful you came on the show today, and I love the way you kind of wrapped up the show. I'm glad I gave you a little extra space there just to add to the content that you'd already provided. But listeners, it's your chance now to speak into the pain points that Tracy listed. Just engage in the Facebook group that we have going on, and just play your part in helping all boats rise in a rising tide. Tracy, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.